All right, guys, let's have a look at the first section. I'm going to slide into 11 of the third string, and then I'm going to do a hammer on from 10 to 12, and then bend that 12 a tone and a half. So we've got, if you want a reference for that tone and a half, 15th fret of the second string is the note we want to bend to. We want to bend into a D. So that sort of helps if you're trying to get it a little bit more in tune. After that, I go to this phrase. What I have here is a hammer on from 10 to 12 again on the second string, and then I jump to 9 of the third. So let's put those two chunks together. Then I work into this phrase. So I'm kind of working into like a mini augmented arpeggio here. I'm doing a hammer on from 7 to 9 of the third, and then my arpeggio is going 7 of the second, 7 of the third, 8 of the fourth. All together. Hopefully that's making sense. And then I work into this phrase. What I have here is a quick hammer on pull off going 9, 12, 9 on the fourth, and then a half bend from 7. A little bit of a gross note, but it does work with that F sharp major chord that's going on behind it. So let's have a look at what we've got thus far. Hopefully that's all making sense. Then I work into this phrase. So it's nearly the same thing twice. There is some slight variations though. So the start of that, we're going to have these 4 notes. We're actually going to recycle those in a little bit as well. So keep that in mind. We're going to hammer it from 7 to 9 on the third string, and then play 7 of the second, rolling to 7 of the third. That's going to sound like this. Okay? So we're going to essentially do that twice with 2 different endings. The first ending will be this. I'm just doing a pull off, a semitone back from 9 to 8 on the 4th string, and then hitting 9 again. All together. When I do it the second time, so that little chunk's the same, I'm going to end with a full tone pull off from 9 to 7 on the 4th string, and I'm going to do that twice. All together. Hopefully that's all making sense. Then I work into this phrase. Let's slow that down. I'm doing a bend from 10 of the second string, and then I've got a cheeky pinky coming in underneath that to play 10 of the first string. After I've hit that first string, I want to bring the bend down. So we're going to bend it up, hit the 10 underneath it, and then bend it back down again. After that bend, I'm pulling off to 7, and then I want to play from 10 to 8 on the second string. But you'll notice that when I get to the 8th fret, I'm doing a half bend from that note. So we're going to go all together of that most recent chunk. Hopefully that's all making sense. Just to finish it off and get us ready for the next section, I've got this little rolling flat finger thing going from 7 of the first to 7 of the second. And then I'm bending 10 of the first string. We're actually going to use that bend in the next section as well as it ties over. And that's pretty much the whole first section. So let's do it again at a gentlemanly pace, and then again even slower with some tabs. One more time with some tabs. All right, guys, let's have a look at the second section. We're going to start off with this phrase. All right, let's slow that down. I'm going to bend 10 up and back. We're kind of borrowing that from the previous section as well. And at the end of that, I've sort of got a bit of a pre-bend here. I'm bending that down and then playing 7th fret of the same string. At the end of that, we're borrowing this cheeky bend idea that we had in the previous section, bending 10 of the second string, playing 10 of the first, and then bending down. So it'll go, at the end of that, I'm playing from 8 to 10 on the second. So all together thus far. Hopefully that's all making sense. Let's slow that phrase down. This has got a string skip in it. I'm bending 9 of the 3rd and then playing 10 of the 1st string. Once more, we've got this sort of cheeky sustain thing with a held note and then bring it down. At the end of that, I was going to 7th fret and then I played this phrase. What I've got there is a pull off from 7 to 6 on the 3rd string and then I'm just plucking 7 again. And that's the first half of this section. So all together. Hopefully that's making sense. Then I work into this phrase. All right, let's slow that down. What I've got here is a hammer on from 7 to 9 on the 3rd string. And then I've got 2 semitone bends from 7 of the 2nd string. And at the end of that, I'm reversing that hammer on into a pull off now from 9 to 7. So it kind of works forwards and backwards. At the end of that, it's nearly exactly the same thing, but I'm jumping to 9 of the 3rd string and I've got sort of a triplet 3 bends in a row from that, 7 of the 2nd string with those half bends. So it'll go, once again, we're ending on that pull off. So all together of that little chunk, hopefully that's all making sense. Then I work into this phrase. So this is working around the B minor pentatonic. And I should have mentioned that earlier. Pretty much this whole solo is going to be working around different chunks of the B minor pentatonic. So we've got this phrase. Let's slow that down. I'm doing a bend from 9 of the 3rd and then playing 7/10 on the 2nd. And the next thing I do is a bend from 9 of the 3rd to a flat finger covering 7 of the 2nd and the 1st string. That's going to sound like this. All together. At the end of that, what I'm doing there is bending up and back from 9 of the 3rd string, pulling off to 7, and then ending on the 9 bend. And that's pretty much all of the 2nd section. So let's go right back to the start, play it at a gentlemanly pace, and then again, even slower with some tabs. One more time with some tabs. Alright guys, so the start of the 3rd section is going to start off with some very similar licks we saw in section 2. We're going to start off with this. Very similar to what we had. A bend on 9 of the 3rd string, 7/10 on the 2nd. And then a bend on 9 of the 3rd string again, and then that flat finger going from 7 of the 2nd to 7 of the 1st. At the end of that, I'm just doing the bend on the 9 of the 3rd string, and then 2 double stops. It's just the flat finger chord covering 7 of the first 2 strings, and I'm going to do that idea twice. All together. At the end of that. Alright, let's slow that down. I'm bending 9 up and back on the 3rd string and then pulling off to 7. And then I'm just going to play 9 to 7 as single notes. At the end of that, I'm going to bend that 9 up, add some sexy vibrato at the top, and then try and slide up an octave. Now, it doesn't really matter, but I like the sound of 21. Or 20, whatever works. It's got some vibe to it. Then I work into this phrase. All right, let's slow that down. Once again, like what we had in the first section, I'm bending that 11th fret 1.5 tones or 3 semitones. So we want to get the 14th fret in tune with that 11 bend. At the end of that, let's slow that down. I'm going to play 9, 11, and then to 7 on the 3rd string. You'll notice that I'm just using my pointer finger on the 9 and the 7 to create that position shift, because after that, I'm back in the pentatonic box 1 shape as well. So I've got, if you want to, you can add a little sort of semitone bend on that 7 for some stank. And that was resolving to 9 of the 4th. All together. And I'm working with this phrase. Let's slow that down. I'm playing 10 of the 2nd string as a bend, 7 of the 1st, and then a quick pull off from 10 to 7 on the 2nd string. So we've got, hopefully that's all making sense. Now this is a little bit different to some of the stuff we've seen before where we're just sort of sustaining and trying to get that down sound. This time I'm doing a bend on 10 of the 2nd string and then playing 10 of the 1st. But then I'm just going to bring it right back down and then just play 10 on the 2nd string as a normal note. At the end of that, I've got a cheeky little chromatic thing going 12, 11, 10, 9 on the 2nd string. So we've got, and then the next part of that, I've sort of got a tied note from 14 of the 3rd string, which will lead into the next section. It'll sort of start off as a regular note and then bend up a full tone. We don't need to worry about that full tone bend until section 4. So that's all of section 3. Let's go back to the start of it and play it again at the gentleman's pace and then do it again even slower with some tabs. One more time with some tabs. Alright guys, let's have a look at the start of the 4th section. It's going to start with this cheeky phrase. Starting off with the bend from 14 of the 3rd and then playing 12, 15 on the 2nd. At the end of that, what I have here is a pull off from 17 to 15 on the 2nd string and then straight into a bend from 17. At the end of that, borrowing our trusty old friend bend, pinky, and then bend down. That was all on 17th fret of the 2nd string. At the end of that, I've got a regular 15 note and then a pull off from 17 to 15. So let's have a look at what we've got thus far from the start of this section. At the end of that, alright, let's slow that down. What I have there is a bend from 17 of the 2nd string, and then I go like this. So that's just working chromatically, 15, 16, 17 on the 1st string, and then I want to bend up that 17. Now you'll notice, at the top of that bend, excuse me, at the top of that bend, I'm catching the 2nd string, and then bringing that down as well. If you can avoid getting that sort of dime bag ringing together sound, that would be great. My strings are a little bit further apart than I would like, so I do occasionally get them ringing together, but if you can control it down from the 2nd string without the 1st string ringing, it is particularly delicious. And then we can resolve to that 15 on the 2nd string. At the end of that, I'm just playing 17 of the 2nd string. So we've got, at the end of that, I go into this phrase. So I've got a quick pull off from 17 to 15. And then from that point, now this is quite tricky because we're bending that full tone back only a semitone and then back up again. So we'll go through it slowly. I'm bending from 17 of the 2nd string and hitting 17 of the 1st twice. At the end of that, I'm bending down that semitone and then back up again from 17 of the 2nd string. And then I go, so I want to bring it all the way down back to its rest position and then play 15 again. So this is a bit of a tricky phrase. I'll play it again. Now I'm going to do a very similar idea. It's pretty much exactly the same, except instead of going from that point I'm going to do a bend from 14 of the second string, just a semitone, and resolve that to 12. After that, we'll work into the next section. So we'll just leave it on that note to finish this section. So from that most recent chunk, let's go right back to the start of the section, put it together at a gentlemanly pace, and then again, even slower with some tabs. One more time with some tabs. Alright guys, the start of the fifth section is going to start with a big sexy bend from 14 to the first string. Then I work into this phrase. So from there, I've got a bend from 13 of the second string and I'm hitting 10 of the first twice. If you want to do outside picking, that seems to make the most sense to me. At the end of that, this is a bit of a strange phrase. I'm playing 11, 10, 9 as just rolling legato, and then that slides to 7. At the end of that, very strange. I'm playing 9 to 8 on the fourth, and then octave up from that 8, I'm hitting 11 of the second string. So it's going to go like this. So from the start of that, okay, then I work into this phrase. So what I've got there is a big bend from 12 from the first string, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got 9 notes all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 into this phrase. Let's slow that down. I've got to pull off from 12 to 10 on the first string, jumping to 12 of the second, and then I'm sort of playing the same notes again, but not pulled off. When I pick everything, it gets slowed down a little bit. I'm going to play 12, 10 with a slight quarter bend, and then resolve to that 12th fret of the second string. So we've got, hopefully that's all making sense. Let's go right back to the start of the section, see what we've got thus far, and then we'll finish it off. Then I work into this phrase. All right, let's slow that down. I'm playing 10 of the second string with my middle finger. Now this fingering is important because it sort of sets you up for the position shifts and whatnot. I'm playing 10 of the second string, and then I'm sliding from 11 to 9 and then pulling off to 7 on the third string. And then from that point, I just reverse my steps. I slide from 9 to 11, and then I want to be playing 10 of the second string. And there's a big fat bend at the end on 9 of the third, which will lead us into section 6. So we've got, and then that'll lead into that sexy, delicious run there. So let's go right back to the start of the section from the 14th fret bend on the second string, put it all together relatively slowly, and then again, even slower with some tabs. One more time with some tabs. All right, so section 6 is going to begin with this weird pentatonic run, but we're not going to be working sort of anything too predictable. The weird thing about this, I guess, is we're kind of working in a lot of fourth and occasionally major third intervals. So what I've got at the start is this. Let's slow that down. I'm playing 7 of the first and the second string. Then I'm playing from 10 to 9 from the second to the third. Then I go to this phrase. So that's going from 7 of the second to 7 of the third. So we should have 6 notes thus far. The next one that I just added then was 9 of the third to 9 of the fourth. So now we should have 8. Okay, then from that point, this one's a little bit less predictable. I'm playing 7 of the third, 9 of the fifth, and then ending on 7 of the fourth string. And that's probably the most weird and complicated part of the solo. At the end of that, I'm going to slide from 9 to 7 and then pull off to 5, and then reverse my steps by sliding from 7 to 9 on the 5th string. All together. Hopefully that's all making sense, and then I work into this phrase. So from there, I'm going to play 7, 9 on the 4th and 7 of the 3rd. At the end of that, very pentatonic-y here. I'm pulling off from 10 to 7 on the 2nd string. At the end of that, I'm what's that? I am doing a bend. Mental blank, a little sleep deprived from the little one. Bending up and back from 9 of the 3rd string, jumping to 7. And then I'm going to hit that 7 again. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got thus far from the start, and then we'll add the next chunk, which leads into those sexy harmonized arpeggios. Hopefully that's all making sense. Then I work into this phrase. Let's slow that down. I'm going to hit 9 of the 3rd string twice and then play 7, 8 on the 2nd string. Then I'm going to go back to 7 again on the 2nd string to finish that off. Notice that it's gotten a little bit harmonic minory there, which is delightful, scary, and Spanishy all at the same time. I was playing 6, 7, 9 on the 1st. And that's pretty much all of that section. So we've got the really delicious part. So let's do all of section 6 again at a gentlemanly pace, and then again even slower some tabs. One more time with some tabs. Okay, so the next section is relatively simple. It just sounds amazing because of the harmonized factor, but it's actually not too ridiculous. We're going to start off with a 3-note arpeggio that we'll be playing exactly the same 5 times in a row. This is the lower harmony as well. So if you want to do the higher one, you can figure it out just as the different inversions of the arpeggios, but by yourself, this one seems to make the most sense to me. I'm pulling off from 10 to 7 on the 1st string, and then playing 7 of the 2nd, and doing that whole idea 5 times in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The only thing that's going to be different is on the 5th one, you're going to hold the 3rd note of that arpeggio for a smidge longer. Then I work into this phrase. So what happens here is I do 2 and a bit arpeggios. It's going to be working with sort of an F sharp major triad, if you will. I'm pulling off from 9 to 6 on the 1st string and playing 7 of the 2nd string. I'm going to do that exactly the same twice. And on the 3rd time, instead of finishing the arpeggio, I'm just going to finish on that pull off. So we're going to have 2 groups of 3 and then a group of 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. At the end of that, I'm going to slide from 9 to 14. And that kind of rhythm and pattern is going to be exactly the same through this sort of 4 sections of arpeggios. So all together, we're going to have this. Hopefully that's making sense. My next group of 5 arpeggios is going to pull off from 9 to 5 on the 1st string and roll to 5 of the 2nd string. Then I'm going to have 2 3-note groupings in a group of 2 from an E major triad arpeggio. I'm pulling off from 7 to 4 and then playing 5 of the second string. I'm going to do 2 groups of 3 and then a group of 2, and then that slides from 7 to 12. Hopefully that's all making sense. Then I work into this phrase. Very similar to what we just did. Quite a big stretch here. I'm pulling off from 7 to 3 on the first string and playing 3 of the second. That will be my group of 5 3-note arpeggios. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've got my 2 groups of 3 and my group of 2, which will be this. Nice and simple. It's a D major triad arpeggio. I'm pulling off from 5 to 2 on the first string and playing 3 of the second. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. At the end of that, I slide from 5 to 10. So before we get too excited, we should have 3/4 of this section. We'll add the last chunk to it, and then you just repeat the whole thing until the song disappears into nothingness. This is what we should have thus far. Okay, then we work into this. Okay, so what I've got here, this is kind of a strange arpeggio. I'm pulling off from 8 to 5 on the second string and then playing an open note, just because trying to fret that B is a complete pain in the ass, and I don't think they do it. So I'm doing that idea 5 times in a row. And then my F sharp major arpeggio is going to pull off 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'm playing from 6 to 2 on the first string, rolling to 2 of the second. At the end of that, sliding into 9 of the first string, and that's it. We've got that sort of 4 groups of arpeggios that will repeat until the song fades. Let's do the whole thing again at a gentlemanly pace, and then again even slower with some tabs. One more time with some tabs.